The more I listen, is the more I hear.
All right. Well, there's only one way to find out if we're all going to be okay, after this pandemic, and it's to check in with the health experts. And this morning we have with us Dr. Hazel Othello just to speak with us about how we can cope, especially with this recent lockdown and the state of emergency. Just how are we coping mentally, economically, socially, but we're going to be concentrating on the mental side of things. Good morning to you, Dr. Othello.
Good morning, Natalie.
And how are you? I remember the last time I interviewed you on another network. That was my first question to you. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm okay.
Yes, well, I'm definitely happy to hear that because in order for you to help us, you first have to be okay.
That's correct.
Doc, with the recent state of emergency, well, more importantly, the curfew, because that's what really changed. The curfew and police's and the defense force ability to enter without a warrant. How have people been coping based on the feedback from the ministry's website? How have people been coping with the recent lockdown?
Well, it's early yet, so it's kind of difficult to gauge on a national scale how people have been coping. But at an individual level, in terms of people that I interact with on a daily basis, people seem to be coping. Clearly, some people would have some difficulties, but based on what I've been experiencing, people seem to be coping in large measure.
I know the Ministry of Health offers a counseling and some kind of mental health support for people who feel as if they're overwhelmed and need that kind of support. Have people been using that avenue to get help?
Absolutely. It's not exclusively the Ministry of Health, it's the Ministry of Health in partnership with a wide range of NGOs and other organizations that provide mental health and psychosocial support. So we've come together in order to create that directory of services that I've spoken about before, so that once you log into the directory, you're directed to the type of support that is best for your need. And people have been using it quite extensively.
And have we noticed any trend? I know, like now we have the exams coming up. Are we seeing more students, whether primary, secondary school, or parents? Do we have categories of who are trying to employ the services more?
I can't remember that off the top of my head because we have periodic updates on who's using it and what people are
Yeah.
logging in looking for, but I haven't checked it in the last few days. So I don't want to give you the wrong answer on that.
Right. I understand. I just asked because I know that with the exams, there's always this anxiety around the
Mm-hmm.
exams. And of course, like last year, we have a postponement. And while it may work for some, it may not work for others. So I was just wondering if people are checking in more, because of these uncertainties, because I think that's what's driving the anxiety, the uncertainty. Is there anything scientific to prove that?
Well, to prove it scientifically, you would have to do properly designed studies, which I don't think we're doing at this point in time. But we could speak anecdotally based on the people we've interacted with. And yes, some young people are having difficulty. And you have to remember that it's not just Find Care TT, there's also Childline and other resources that young people use. So um, we
Be
may
able
not
to measure
always
those and
track
map
every
those.
child.
Yeah.
There's many children whose parents access the private sector. Our services wouldn't measure that, But yeah, quite a fair number of young people are having difficulties, and it's important that they get the help that they need so that they too can cope.
So talk to us again, Doc. You mentioned Childline. What are the avenues that people can use to get help?
Well, as I always say, it starts from the base of a pyramid. If you're talking about help, we picture it in terms of a pyramid, where the base is where the most people are and where the resources are more easily accessible. And that's what the level of interaction with the people that you know, your teacher, your school social worker, your guidance counselor, your pastor, your auntie or uncle or godmother, the person in your life who you know that you could run to in a difficult
Yeah.
moment, right? And that person to person interaction is that first level of what we call community support. And then if you get above that, you start to talk about, what we call primary health care, your general practitioner, the nurse, your district nurse, the mental health workers in your community. And then as you go up the ladder, services start to get more specialized, so that only the people with more, more extensive needs or more complex needs would actually need to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist in order to get the help that they need.
Right. So you have Childline. What's the website that they can go to for the ministry to access this help?
Well, you can Google Childline itself, or you can access it through the findcareTT.com.
Sorry, repeat that.
You can either go directly to Childline, or you can access it through findcareTT.com.
Find Care, FINE?
FINDCARETT.com. FindcareTT.com.
So that's the website they use, and
yes.
that will kind of walk them through.
That links people to any kind of services, whether it's children, whether it's adolescents, whether it's adults, whether it's somebody who's having suicidal thoughts, or somebody who is needing to link up to one of the RHA mental health services. All those services are listed, in addition to a number of helplines.
Okay. So maybe it's one of those things we'll have to look at, because as I said, especially with the exams coming up, I spoke with Tutors President the other day, who told me that there are children who are on suicide watch. And, while we know that, according to the Minister of Education, this is something that happens, all the time, especially around exams and stuff. How do we know, how many people we're helping if we don't monitor, map it, and, just to see the numbers, to see if there's more anxiety, if there are more people, reacting now as compared to the first lockdown?
Yeah, it's not that we don't measure it. It's that what I'm explaining is that you don't get those results in real time. Right. You don't get it on a day by day basis exactly what change took place in the last 24 hours. Yeah. But it's accessible, but not in the way that you're asking for it.
Okay, I understand that. And what are some of the things that people can do, to cope while they're home? Because, you still have this stigma around, I need help and let me reach out for help. So if you're in a household, if you're in a business environment or working environment, what are some of those things you can do to manage your anxiety?
Okay, one of the easiest things you can do is breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. They are very simple. There are several of them that you just Google breathing exercises for relaxation, and they come up, and you usually see somebody demonstrating how to do it. Basically, it's really simple. You sit in a comfortable chair with your feet on the ground, and you inhale and exhale as you count.
Doc, let me try this.
Some of them, you inhale 1, 2, 3, 4 at a steady pace, and then exhale 1, 2, 3, 4 at a steady pace. Some of them you inhale, hold for a bit, and then exhale. There are different exercises.
Is it that when we get anxious or breathing changes, it becomes more rapid and uneven?
Absolutely. When you get anxious, something called adrenaline is released into your bloodstream, and it increases your heart rate, increases your breathing. It basically prepares you to what we call either fight or flight. In other words, if you stumbled upon a lion, you would either take on the lion and try to kill it, or you would run. It prepares the body for that kind of response. So that's why the muscles get all tense, because you're getting ready to do something. The problem with anxiety is there's no stress. There's not that kind of visible physical stressor present at the time, but the body is responding continuously as though there is. And that's
Does
why
the body respond the same way with like depression? Because we're talking about anxiety. What about depression? Yeah. What can you do to balance those hormones and I don't know if it's electrolytes?
Well, to treat depression, the treatment involves two things. It involves psychotherapy, or what we call counseling in layman's terms. Although there are different types of psychotherapy, and it could get a little more complicated than straightforward counseling, but I'll keep it simple, right? There's psychotherapy, and then there is medication that some people need in order to augment their body's response to treatment. So that it's twofold, and for some people, the combination of both will be more effective than either one by itself.
Right. Well, I'm just happy that, since this pandemic started, that the government has decided to take on this task of helping those who are mentally distressed. I'm going to put it because, as you say, you don't know what the mental issue is going to be, but people are in a unique situation, in an unprecedented situation, and some of us might be able to adjust immediately, and some of us might need help to do so. So, help findcareTT.com, and you say that will take you to all the different portals, all the different things that you might need help with.
That's right. And as fast as we stumble upon or people contact us and tell us about additional resources, we check it out, we make sure it's bona fide, and if once we're satisfied that it is, we add it to the site so that we're constantly updating our services.
I know we're in a pandemic, but are you all able to go out to the person as compared to the person? If the person doesn't have that kind of connectivity, are you all able to go to the communities at this time?
Well, the mental health staff in the RHAs are clearly doing the best they can to limit person-to-person contact, but in circumstances where it's absolutely necessary to physically make contact with a patient, it has to be done using appropriate PPE and physical distancing where possible, so that both the patient and the worker are protected.
Right. All right. Well, I understand that. Well, Doc, thank you so much for speaking with us. Let's hope that people will reach out for the help if they need it. findcaretT.com, findcaretT.com. And thank you so much for your tireless work, and stay mentally healthy, Doc, please.
And Nati, I just want to remind you that in case you forget that, you can find it through the Ministry of Health's website. So if you go to the Ministry of Health's website and you look under mental health, you will find it.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Othello.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye and have a wonderful day. And please stay safe, Natalie, and your colleagues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hazel Othello, there talking to us. Remember, you can get the support if you need it. It's findcaretT.com. And of course, you can check the Ministry of Health, health.gov.tt, I think it is, so that you can, get additional support. And they're here for you. Access the help if you need it. Don't be afraid. And of course, you have the child line and so many other hotlines that you can utilize as well. We're going to take a break and we'll be back with you.